29, it might even hit 30 degrees. So it's going to be quite a warm evening for these both sides tonight, Liverpool and Spurs, in this Champions League final.
Yeah, thanks, Leon. For more information, you can see offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. Always remember to gamble sensibly, though. For more information, check out dunlewy.net. That's DUNLEWEY.net. So from 3 to 5 this afternoon, we're talking Champions League final in the week that was in football. Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward with me in studio. How are you doing, guys?
Good, Neil. Johnny?
Is this a sign of things to come? Neil at the helm? Who knows?
Neil at the wheel.
Neil at the wheel, yeah.
Well, for the next 2 hours anyway.
Yeah. Nathan could be a little bit worried.
Where is Nathan anyway?
Nathan had to go the whole way to Portugal just to get away from the Champions League furore.
Yeah, he was posting up Instagram shots of parties, like kids' parties and stuff like that. He's there with his family, to be clear. But he looks to be having a good time.
Right. A lot of my mates are in Madrid, and they haven't been shy about telling me that.
Are they ticketless?
I'm in Madrid. No. I know one guy from the Off the Ball stable who's over there who doesn't have a ticket. If anyone can help. Probably a bit unlikely.
Who's that?
Caban, is it?
Can I name him? From my neck of the woods.
You probably can name him.
Yeah. Jonathan Higgins.
Oh yeah.
Jonathan texted me yesterday. He said, I know it's a little bit unlikely. But
I've just been told he's going to be on with us at 4:30.
Oh,
he's going to take a little
where?
He's not going to be dressed up wearing a fake bib with a scanner, is he? That would be slightly unfortunate.
Speaking Spanish. He texted me. He says something like, "I know it's a bit unlikely, but just putting a shout out to see if you could get me a ticket for the game tomorrow." And I was like, "That's pretty unlikely, all right."
I'd say he's gone a good bit down the list if he's got to use it on. To be fair, that's illustrative of how bad things are for him.
Thoughts of the father, Ted.
He's not going to that game.
Like, you are number one on the list, Ted. He looks at the wall and he's 13.
Gary Breen also on the line with us. Gary, afternoon.
Good afternoon, guys.
Gary's the man to get him a ticket. Gary's gotten a bit of sway in the professional sporting game.
I know that's your usual background at home, Gary. Have you just transported a little board behind you? You're secretly in a bar in Madrid.
I've got red for Liverpool and blue for Tottenham top on, so it's a type of final where there doesn't seem to be any kind of team you don't really like. I think I like both teams, I like both managers. I love both sets of players in terms of what they're all about. So I'm just going to really enjoy it for what should be a brilliant final.
Quick little trip down memory lane first, because we threw a poll up there yesterday on Twitter at Off the Ball. We're looking the favourite Champions League final memory. We've 3 options in an other column. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in 1999 is there. Zidane's volley in 2002. Dudek's save in Istanbul in 2005. What do you think topped us?
They were all good shouts. Solskjaer, because of Man United fans.
I'd say, I don't know, Liverpool always seems to win these polls. So
Not this time.
Really?
Yeah, 43% went for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, 38% for Jerzy Dudek and Liverpool's comeback in 2005, 14% for Zidane's volley in 2002, and 5% then for any other options.
Miscellaneous. Yeah.
That's an indictment of our relationship with English football, because Zidane's was obviously the clear winner there if you were to look at it in any way dispassionately. What a goal. From him to grace a fine like that, to get a goal like that in his left foot. But, you know,
there's recency bias as well. I think I'll always remember Gareth Bale's goal last year was pretty stunning as well.
It was.
I definitely will remember. It's one of these ones when you remember where you were for it type thing.
Where were you?
I was in Paris.
Do you remember?
Because all the Champions League finals tend to clash with international windows, so I can sort of trace Irish end of season friendlies or build up the qualifiers with Champions League qualifiers. So it's the penalties in Moscow in 2008 is like Trapp's first training camp, I think, and so on and so forth. And the one Champions League final I got to go to was 2013, which was the Dortmund one, the Dortmund Bayern one, because we were playing in Wembley 3 days later in the first game with England for so many years, So, but the Bale one, though, because we were playing France, of course, the following day, I think it was, because France were off to win the World Cup, So I think the Bale one in years to come would rank highly in that list.
I do love those English shows where they just ask a load of kind of celebrities or people that are well known, where were you when such and such happened, and they just even if the answers are really crap, they just play them anyway, and it's I remember I watched it at my mate's house. It was like, that's not really newsworthy at all. But they put it in anyway.
I was watching last year's final in a pub, surrounded by Liverpool fans. I've never heard a room just go as silent as Gareth Bale's goal hitting the back of the net.
Yeah, I think the place in Paris is pretty neutral, but the best part was he scored the goal, then someone, Paul O'Hare basically, come back out of the toilet for a larger cheer as he realised he just missed this amazing moment. The whole bar seemed to get more pleasure out of that. Someone walking in and looking up and going, oh no, I can't believe, you queued for ages to get into a spot to watch this game and then you've missed this, where were you? Well, it's at the hand dryer.
Yeah, the Liverpool Milan game. I watched that in what is probably now, is it J.W. Sweetman's?
Master Maguire's.
Yeah. And at half time, I went to the William Hill next door, which is now defunct,
right.
And came back and it was 3-3.
Did you bet it to be 3-3?
I was back.
I don't think that would have led my story.
You're probably back in a dog at Wimbledon, to be fair.
Definitely more likely than back in the 3-3. But yeah.
Gary, any particular finals that stand out for you down the years, or even moments out of them?
No, certainly what Dan was saying about international. We were with the Irish team when in '99 United won that game, and obviously then Dennis comes back into the squad afterwards. Yeah. He was just so. I mean, for a guy who's used to winning trophies, that was just a completely different level. And when he came in, he was just so in he was in shock, really. He just said it was the greatest moment of his career. It was fantastic to see the joy that he'd given him. Obviously, I remember watching that Liverpool game as well with some friends around my house, and Steve Finnan was playing for Liverpool. And he obviously played a big part in it. I think he was dragged at half time when there was a big argument whether he was injured or not. And to this day, he says he wasn't. But it seems that substitution was a turning point.
First finals, you remember?
First finals, I remember. Well, I remember. See, the thing is, I think the European Cup final, now the Champions League final, I actually think the build up to Liverpool Spurs this week has almost been like an old school FA Cup final. Maybe it's because I'm getting this sense of the fans and all this. So that wasn't the case. I'm trying to think back to European Cup finals. I remember there was one in Wembley in 1992, wasn't it, with Barcelona and Sampdoria, and the Milan beat Red Star Belgrade. But I'm actually struggling to remember them really clearly and vividly in terms of the build-up and
because English teams weren't really involved.
Well, no, they weren't. No, the time when we were going to remember the FA Cup finals is sort of when you had the Heysel ban. That's where the clubs weren't actually participating in the competition.
And they weren't good enough either.
No.
You remember Man United would go to Juventus and just be absolutely played off the pitch, and it took Fergie a long time to get the team to actually.
You had Marseille, and remember Rangers did pretty well in one of the first actual Champions League. So in terms of the first final, that I think, God, I remember that game as a iconic game. I'm actually sort of struggling a bit, Ajax. I remember the penalty shootout involving Ajax as well and stuff. But it's more in recent times that the Champions League final has become that centrepiece event in terms.
Is it because it's a Saturday now as well? Because it's like the FA Cup final. You say you have the whole day of a build-up leading up to it.
I think there's a bit of that. I think it's just the declining status of other cup finals as well too. I think there's a bit of that, but it has become the biggest game in football now. Maybe after the World Cup final, to be fair, But
that's a good point, Dan, as well. Because the Super Bowl is everything. The Super Bowl is a kind of an entity of itself, and in English football, what finals have you that really matter?
Well, it's become but it's got to that point where the Super Bowl, they go to the city's predefined. There's a pilgrimage to go there no matter where it is, and I don't know. It just seems to have become, and maybe it's because of where we live and what we're influenced by, and the amount of sort of Liverpool fans that you would encounter day to day sort of in Dublin. But
said that with a bit of a scowl.
But the build up to this one is just seems to have that old FA Cup final vibe around it. I don't know.
And the fact that it's kind of it's 3 weeks since the Premier League ended. Obviously, that has to account for other leagues finishing up and cup finals and things like that. But yeah, it's a long build-up.
We should not forget how absolutely and utterly ridiculous it is that one of these teams, not to mind two of them, are in the final in the first place. If you Liverpool were probably 200 to 1 at one stage to qualify. Spurs not far off. It was ridiculous what they had to achieve to keep Barcelona just not to score alone was ridiculously unlikely. And the Spurs thing, what are you going to say? So I think that's made a huge build up as well, because they shouldn't be there, neither of them. Yeah,
and throughout it's kind of felt like for both teams there have been various stages where you're going, God, the name's on the trophy, isn't it?
There's a Destiny DVD done for whichever one wins this. It's going to be cast in a particular light, no matter what happens.
Gary, looking ahead at it as well, the last few weeks building up, It is bizarre to think that the season Liverpool have had, there is the possibility that they could end it with absolutely nothing.
Well, listen, it's amazing, but the turnaround's been incredible. it seems a ridiculous thing to say, but it's still such an impressive season by them. You would put them down as favourites, of course you would, and although a lot's been made of Klopp's losing record in the finals, but the very fact is this is the first time that he's got a team who will not be the underdogs. Now, people will look at the scenarios and think that Liverpool should be strong enough to beat Seville in that European final, but Seville were looking to win the Europa League for the third season in a row, so they were well capable and knew what was needed. Obviously, he loses with Dortmund against Wolfsburg, but Wolfsburg finished second in the Bundesliga that season. So there are mitigating circumstances, but there's no doubt Liverpool are the favourites this evening.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be. You know, I mean, like, if you, whatever kind of form book study you do, I mean, they should be the favourites. I mean, you know, Spurs have lost a lot of games this year. They're not.
26 points between them.
Yeah, like Liverpool have this tag, even though they didn't win the league. You know, I mean, they lost once. You know, they lost once, and okay, I know you can point to the semi-final first leg in Barcelona if you wanted to sort of, you know, you can find the form that you want almost to suit an argument that they're like massively vulnerable. But I mean, I think it's interesting what Gary says. I agree that there is that element of pressure there now with Liverpool, that there is a sense that no matter how much you fight it and how much you battle it and how professional and focused they are, you just wonder, is there that danger that in the back of the head there is this element of it's only Spurs? You know, now it shouldn't be the case, probably won't be the case, it won't be the case with everyone, yeah. But I think, as I know you had Don Hutchison on earlier, and I think it was interesting, I was listening, that I think if Liverpool, like, they can blow them away early, they can take control of it, but the longer the game goes on, and this Spurs team has this sort of quality that actually that they can hang in games. You know, they've actually, you know, after half time in games this year, and not just Ajax at other times, they have this ability in them to eke something out. That I sort of think Liverpool need to, if they are the superior team, they need to assert it early, because if they don't, I just think that you could just leave yourself in a very vulnerable position.
I don't know about that. Like, I look at Liverpool this season, and they lost one game, and they could really have, their season could have derailed towards the end. It didn't. They were insanely good. They kept winning. What they did against Barcelona to pull that out of the fire, I think they're very assured at the back. I think Alisson and Van Dijk, just everything's under control there. I don't think there's any mental wobble. And secondly, I think they'll really be conscious of the fact that this is an opportunity they never thought they'd get. It looked like they were going to end the season with nothing, which would have been a tragedy to my mind for like Liverpool to get 97 points. Like, that's, to me, that's success. Like, you can't decide what Manchester City do. You and, like, you know, history is written by the winners. But this Liverpool were winners this season. They just finished second, and I think tonight they will be winners. And I think they'll be very conscious of the fact that this shouldn't have happened. The Barcelona situation was ridiculous. That will never happen again. Yeah. And they're here, and now I think they'll appreciate that. And I think they're a better side than Spurs.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, Gary, what do you think of the view that the break suits Spurs, in the sense that Liverpool had this momentum going, and all of a sudden they have this 3-week window, and maybe it gives Spurs more of a chance to regroup? I don't know what your theory is on that as a potential factor.
I looked at that scenario and that argument, and I do think it does suit Spurs a little bit, in terms of, I think Pochettino has to nail down his tactics. Now, there's a fluidity about how Tottenham play. They can play a 4 at the back, a 5 at the back. But everyone talks about desire. Who wants this title more than anyone else? It's nonsense. It's going to be won and lost on tactical decisions by the managers now.
And bits of luck as well, Gary, you know.
Of course it is, but likewise, what Johnny said about Liverpool having a bit of luck, are fortunate to get through Barcelona. Tottenham were very fortunate in the end to get through against an Ajax team who I had them down to comfortably beat in the semi-final. But Pochettino got his tactics so wrong in the first 30 minutes or first half of that first leg that they were chasing it from then on. They looked like they could actually go out. Now, he made a decision to play a 5 against Ajax. It was the wrong decision. He has to get that decision right now against Liverpool. First game of the season at Wembley, he played a 4 at the back, he played a narrow midfield. And although they dominated possession, Tottenham, Liverpool blew him away. They couldn't live with him. He changed that then when they played at Anfield, played a 5 at the back, tried to negate the full-backs of Liverpool in terms of how high they get up, tried to get wing-backs to push them back. So ultimately it will be determined by that. But you're right, Dan, to identify the very fact they've had this longer time to iron it out is so important in terms of work he needs to do on a training ground. Now, I know that's a well-drilled Spurs squad, but they have to get this spot on, because you're right. If Liverpool come out of the blocks early on, bearing in mind, 25% of the goals that Tottenham have conceded in the Champions League have come in the first 5 minutes. They concede early against Liverpool, they won't be able to recover in the way that they did against Ajax.
That's an insane.
Yeah, that's a crazy. So what would you do then, Gary, if you're Pochettino? What approach should he go for?
Well, listen, I've been a massive fan of Pochettino ever since he came over to Southampton. I think I've said that on numerous occasions. That's why it was so surprising that he got the tactics wrong against Ajax, because it's not a case of watching Ajax and they play a different way. They play a same way all the time. It's their culture. So why he got that wrong, I don't know. I think looking at Liverpool, I think the key battle will be, again, stopping their fullbacks. Now, how does he do that? Does he invite them on and try and create space for the likes of Son, Moore or Kane to spin in? In doing so, then you're going to have so much problems in terms of not getting a foothold in the game, not getting out. So the work of Trippier at right back, I wouldn't be surprised if he don't pick Trippier, because he's had not a very good season. He might go with Aurier as a more defensive-minded right back, but then you get camped in, you can't get out. So I'll be fascinated to see the tactics. I think ultimately he may well go with a 5 just to get his wing-backs to push Alexander-Arnold back, Robertson back, and ask them to defend to try and get a foothold in that midfield area, because if he doesn't, they could be swamped.
Heat has to be a factor tonight as well. We're talking about like 30 plus degrees throughout the afternoon, even 30 degrees by kick-off time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, like, you know, around major tournaments and stuff, I mean, where a lot of the players are from, they're probably used to, you know, exactly. They're used to sort of playing in those conditions. So, like, I don't know the extent to which that would be a factor. I think if it was two all British and Irish selections on both sides, it might be more. But I suppose if you are talking about teams that that after a couple of weeks off, you know, and it depends how they've managed that, because I know Klopp was talking about you know, trying to do a high intensity couple of weeks. I think he was looking for games at one point, and I did a piece last week speaking to some people that work in like strength and conditioning and stuff like that, and they were saying that, you know, Liverpool have operated at such an intensity that there is that danger that when you step off it, it's hard to get it up. But yeah, you'd imagine it's going to be frantic. I know sometimes you talk about finals being cagey or something like that. I don't think the modern Champions League is like that, really, to a degree. You know, I think you'd imagine it will be sort of all action early on,
and all the crowd will be English.
So there's a possibility it can catch up on them later on. But I don't know. Like, these are the elite, you know, and I can't imagine they'd be vulnerable to. I don't know, Gary. I don't know what you think.
Listen, I agree totally with you, Dan. I think in terms of momentum going into the season, it's not a case of Liverpool have had a great month and you don't want to spoil it. They've had a great 18 months. You know, this is not going to have an impact on them, the fact that it's slowed down. And you're right, in terms of the weather, it won't play a major part. It's not as if we've got to protect Steve Staunton like in '94 against Mexico.
I'm getting hot actually thinking about
that. If you see someone wearing a cap and I'll take it down the line, you'd be a bit worried.
If for Andy Robertson maybe, or someone like that.
Yeah.
Will they be thrown the water bags in that they had in those days? But you shouldn't forget that Liverpool have a seriously good squad in terms of what they've done this season, and like they will make changes. It's going to happen. Who would forget what happened against Barcelona with a second string offense, really? Like, and I don't think that'll be an issue. It might be a small bit cagey though, Dan, because
do you think
Spurs haven't won anything for so long, and the Klopp kind of, there is so much at stake. I don't think it'll be a typical Premier League game, because Champions League finals by their nature aren't. If you have like even from a betting stance, if you go to FA Cup finals, traditionally there's always lower goal expectancy, and finals generally follow that. But I don't know. I think it's going to be absolutely compelling from start to finish.
Well, it suits Spurs if it's a bit. I mean, you know, as Gary's discussing, if they went for that particular strategy to maybe try and nullify Liverpool's threat, that's grand. You know, you think Liverpool are going to try and
but if you cut to the chase here, defensively and goalkeeper, like Liverpool are miles ahead to my mind, and that's defenses obviously win leagues, but I think who do I trust to make a defensive mistake less? Definitely Liverpool, and I could definitely see Alisson making some good saves. I'm not sure like Spurs will defend as well.
Is there a chance Hugo Lloris ends up being the Loris Karius? He has been prone to a few bad ones over the last couple of years at least. Even the World Cup final last year.
Yeah, no, thankfully history is sort of forgotten, you know, that part of it. He's a World Cup winning goalkeeper, as he will be described forevermore, you know.
He'd be looking to be that captain who lifts the World Cup, Champions League in the same season. You know, I think Beckenbauer was the last person to do it, so he'll be looking from a positive aspect. He won't be thinking about his mistakes. He's too experienced. Yeah. He's too good a goalkeeper.
He's no Alisson though.
No, but he's no Karius. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing the grades, Alisson has a mistake in him. He just has
if he has the ball at his feet.
But I don't know. I was listening to some people who covered Liverpool beat, and they just think that what he has is like he has the mental strength to overcome it if he does. Whereas, you know, Karius made a mistake and then you know, he was gone.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know. But Alisson, like, he's not infallible. Like, he's not sort of perfect either, you know. I mean, these are the moments in the games where, like, things happen that aren't rational.
Yeah.
In finals, you know, people who do things that they don't normally do.
That's what I said to Gary.
People
Like,
slip taking a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, stuff happens that doesn't happen in the run of a normal.
Playing
normal
many
match.
finals yourself?
Not at a good level, John. To be fair.
Level doesn't matter then. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, not in such a way that, like, you know, the mental the scrutiny was such that, like, you know, underage level, like yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. There were always very
extra
tense
family
occasions.
members that show up.
Yeah, that you didn't really know about, and the lad at the end would always say there were no losers on the day.
Yeah.
I was like, we lost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
not making me feel
the
bad.
old hip hip hooray from the winning team. There is just like just they won.
Spitting at them.
Tweeting here from Paul Little. Worth noting, Liverpool lost in Belgrade, Naples, Paris and Barcelona in this competition. Is one defeat in the Premier League that relevant?
Well, I mean, like I mentioned the semi-final. Yeah, the Red Star game and stuff. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like, I mean, but I suppose you're more so thinking of the run they had towards the end of the season to a degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, they have vulnerabilities. Like, I'm not saying that they are like this rock solid machine. I think you probably think that more than I would, Johnny. You know, but like,
yeah. Well, I actually don't think they were playing that well in the group stages of the Champions League. Even at home against Napoli, they wobbled through that game. I think that spell of the season when, particularly, you know, Salah wasn't particularly playing that well. Like, Liverpool's strike force did take a little bit of time to get going. Salah played in the World Cup. He wasn't fit. He got no break, and he only came kind of good towards the second half of the season. I think it's a big night for him as well, because like I've said this a million times, his record against the big teams this season isn't great. Like, he's scored obviously against Chelsea. He scored against Arsenal. He hasn't really scored against the big teams, and tonight's going to be big for him. But I wouldn't worry about their away record.
A couple of other texts coming in. Everyone has different memories, but there's never been a time in my 38 years when the Champions League final and similar wasn't the biggest game of the year, and to suggest otherwise is pretty strange. That's from Ollie in Sligo. This one for you, Gary, actually, as an Arsenal fan. Pat McTighe says on Twitter, Arsenal being 1-0 up with 12 minutes to go against an all-star Barca team and losing. Downward spiral for us since. I think he's saying, is that his highlight? A bit of tongue-in-cheek there, I think. You remember that one badly, do you?
I do actually. Sol Campbell got the opening goal for Arsenal, didn't he? And it looked like they were going to go on to something special. And you have to look back on that great period that Wenger had in that first decade with Arsenal and question why they didn't win the Champions League. And it just puts into context the very fact that Liverpool have been able to get their back-to-back seasons. It just shows you the job that Klopp's done, regardless of the fact he hasn't yet got that silverware.
Might mention as well, actually, obviously in that game, Jose Antonio Reyes would have played in it.
I've just seen
that news this afternoon. It obviously puts whatever's going to happen this evening completely into perspective. As an Arsenal fan, I'm sure, like, would have just been absolutely gutted to hear something like that this morning.
Listen, as any supporter of football, of course you would. To any family who's lost a loved one at such a young age like that. Obviously, I remember him coming over to the Premier League. He was a big money signing by Wenger. I'm sure I would have played against him. I can't really remember if I'd had done it against that Arsenal team. I know it would have been a tough one, but I just saw that news there when I came in, and it's just heartbreaking. I
think, you know, sometimes football fans can be a little bit harsh in terms of slagging players and that, but like presuming there is a minute silence tonight, it will be immaculately observed because it's so shocking. Yeah. He's younger than me. Yeah. You know, he's
his home country as well.
35, and you know, always came across as just a really nice guy as well in interviews and so forth. And I think, you know, the rivalry completely go out the window there.
Someone you never really would have heard anything of outside of a football pitch as well.
No, but I think I mean, obviously in Spain, because he had such a massive profile there. Like, he played first team football at 16, and so, you know, so I'd imagine, like, you know, there's a real more sense of his personality there and the type of character he was and stuff. I mean, it is just shocking. Like, you know, like footballers, in some ways they're always like forever young in your mind, you know, in terms of how you remember them as such. And that's I mean, it's appalling news.
Yeah, okay. We're going to take a break now. Afterwards, we'll continue our chat with Dan, Johnny and Gary, looking ahead at the Champions League final.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Alive and Kicking with Claire McKenna.
Coming up on Alive and Kicking this week, food nasties. Do you read food labels? What should you be looking out for? I head to Bloom Festival in Dublin to find out how gardening and the outdoors can impact on mental health. And we meet Evan Scully, the remarkable man who doesn't let cystic fibrosis stop him running marathons.
Alive and Kicking
Thanks to ReproMed.
With me, Claire McKenna, this Sunday from 9 a.m.
On News Talk.
Have a great afternoon with Harvey Norman, the #1 in Ireland for sofas, dining sets, home accessories and more.
Go, Harvey, go!
Reputation is everything. So for your new SUV, look no further than Kia, the SUV experts. Look at our popular Sportage, Sorento and Stonic models, or the Niro plug-in hybrid with grants up to €7,500. Look at great finance offers from as low as 0% APR. And look at a reputation for quality backed by our unique Kia 7-year warranty. For more, visit kia.com. Lending criteria and terms and conditions apply.
The greatest change often comes from the smallest actions, like flicking on the TV or plugging in your charger. Switch to SSE Airtricity and switch to 100% green electricity. So every time you switch on or plug in, you're helping create a greener future. You'll also get €150 welcome credit plus 10% off your electricity. Go to sseairtricity.com today. This is a great deal. This is Generation Green. Estimated annual bill €1,030.47. Offer from 23rd of April 2019. Rates valid from 3rd of December 2018, subject to change. 1 year standard unit rate discount for new home electricity customers on direct debit and e-bill. For details and terms and conditions, rates, EAB, exit fees, standing charges, see sseairtricity.com.
The Ultimate Food Lovers Festival is back. Taste of Dublin returns to the Ivy Gardens from the 13th to the 16th of June, celebrating the revolution of modern Irish food with over 20 restaurants, 30 top chefs, 160 interactive masterclasses, delectable drinks and live entertainment. Taste of Dublin, inspired by Neff. Book now. Tickets from €15 at tasteofdublin.ie. Booking fees apply.
Proudly supported by News Talk.
It's real bank holiday weekend weather. So at Lidl, we're forecasting a nice bit of summer heat with three packs of our deluxe chili beef burgers at a sizzling €9. That's a very tasty saving of 25%. Go on, fire up that barbecue like you need an excuse. Lidl, more for you.
Her own party led the vilification, but did she deserve the onslaught? In this week's Sunday Independent, the shaming of Maria Bailey. Embrace the bank holiday with Rachel Allen's barbecue and Ireland's tastiest toasty, plus the best books for summer. And ahead of Ireland's asset test against Denmark, Paul Kimmage's remarkable insight into Mick McCarthy. The Sunday Independent, the complete read.
Rod Stewart, live at 3 Arena. Due to demand, an extra date, December 5th. Tickets from $86.25 are on sale now. Maybe subject to fees. Presented by Aiken Promotions in association with the Irish Independent.
A visit to Ireland's ancient East provides the perfect breakaway close to home. Leave it all behind with a stay at the Heritage in Laois with your own kind of perfect getaway. An indulging spa experience at one of Ireland's premier spas. Or enjoy some retail therapy at the nearby Kildare Village. Or take in Waterford and Faithleg, a stunning 18th century 4-star mansion. Experience award-winning Moorish dining and simply relax as Faithleg draws you in. The Heritage and Faithleg. Discover more at fbdhotels.com.
At Lexus, we've always been driven by innovation, relentlessly pushing the boundaries of beautiful design and imaginative technology, anticipating the ways in which our world is changing, so you're ready for the future. It's why the entire Lexus range is 100% self-charging luxury hybrid and 0% compromise. Test drive our 192 range at your Lexus retailer and experience no plugins, no diesel, no compromise for yourself. Lexus. Experience amazing.
When he steps out of the showers, his teammates slag him off.
Are you hiding something from us?
He plays along at first, but then they gather around him, whip his towel off, make videos of him. Those who see he's upset laugh it off, saying,
"We're just having a laugh. Sure, what's the harm?"
Enough is enough. Let's stop excusing sexual harassment and sexual violence. Learn more at gov.ie/no-excuses or in an emergency call 999. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Yeah, welcome back. A few more texts and tweets to read out. Donald Mitchell on Twitter says, when we're talking about our favourite Champions League memories, Xabi Alonso having a penalty save, scoring the rebound and being near decapitated by his teammates in celebration in the 2005.
Spent some time in County Meath, did he?
He did, of course, yeah. Well-worn tale. Was that the three? I can't remember which goal was which in that one.
That was the third, I think.
That was the third.
Like 3-3, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I don't have that vivid memory of that game that a lot of people have.
Gerrard got the first, didn't he?
Smeetser then?
Smeetser, the incomparable Vladimir Smeetser. Like, Liverpool had some really average players in that team.
I just remember the penalty.
Smeetser was a good player.
He was all right.
He was a good player.
Smeetser wouldn't be allowed to carry the water on the team at the minute.
You think?
He wouldn't. Like, he'd be so out of his depth, it wouldn't even be funny.
Yeah, but that Liverpool team went a million miles beyond themselves to,
they did,
to win that Champions
Liverpool
League.
team versus this one.
That got them Champions League football, and didn't it that season? They had to go through a qualifying phase afterwards.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because they just finished out.
That was Jimmy Traore as well. Jimmy Traore.
Yeah.
Like, even Dudek was a bit of a cowboy at times as well. Like, to be fair.
A bit harsh on Smeetser, I think.
Come on. Vladimir Smeetser, like.
Origi, you know.
What? Origi?
Every team has an unlikely hero.
Origi is the most unlikely hero.
Yeah.
Like,
he would have been the subject of punchlines a couple of months ago. Now he's part of the greatest squad in world football, according to Ian.
His goal against Everton will never be forgotten, you know. It was
Jordan Pickford.
What's on Origi though, actually, before we move on, like, would you have faith in bringing him on for 20 minutes, even though he has provided those big moments in big games?
Well, like, I think he brings it. You know the way, like, it's kind of a condescending thing to say, like, he brings you something different. He actually does, though. Do you know what I mean? And he's completely different to what they have. Like, there's the three strikers they have, they work perfectly together, but the ones they bring on then are completely different players, I think, and it just changes the dynamic. And you need a plan B, because this game may go against Liverpool.
We saw it for Spurs, like Fernando Llorente in the second leg against
totally
Ajax, second half. That was the plan B. He brought you something different, and it worked.
If they both get on, like, whichever team is, like, if Liverpool are in trouble, Origi's coming on, and Spurs is Llorente, you know, like, whichever manager needs to call upon them, they're in trouble at the time.
I'm just hoping that Vladimir Smeetser is listening to Off the Ball today. He's like,
probably unlikely.
Yeah.
Got any views on Smeetser, Gary? I don't know. Gary probably played against him a couple of times.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, listen, I don't remember him that well, to be honest. I'm sure we played international against him as well, but I don't know. I wouldn't go as harsh as Johnny was there.
The fact that you don't remember him is hardly a great endorsement either. Like,
yeah, but
he did the unseen
Johnny,
work.
No, it's not a case of that. Sometimes you've got to forget those bad experiences against those players as quick as possible.
Because I got the impression with that team, Benitez wouldn't have signed quite a few of them. I do remember thinking that these are not Benitez players, but he has to make do with what he has.
Was Robbie Keane a Benitez player?
He was signed by...
No, I know he was, but he wasn't a Benitez player, was he? If you think about Robbie Keane...
as in directly signed by Benitez.
Who signed Robbie Keane? Was that...
Benitez did, Benitez
was manager, yeah.
But he became subject to this sort of weird...
playing on the left-hand side.
Yeah. I think there was wasn't there a review at the time that Benitez didn't get a couple of other targets he wanted that summer, and he got Robbie, but... It seemed like Keane got caught up in some sort of, I don't know, internal club wrangling and politics, and he wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't the signing that everyone imagined it was going to be for whatever reason. I think Robbie was a bit innocent in that to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, I think he was, you know, and actually did okay in a couple of times, but it was completely the wrong place at the wrong time. But then maybe that's reflecting also the change in. You know, the move towards a period where managers don't necessarily sign all the players too. You know, that was the crossroads.
Getting back to Vladimir Smeetser, right? Who was his club before Liverpool?
Who's his club before Liverpool?
Sparta Prague.
French club, very small, and I think they won the league. Like a really small provincial club. I think they won the league around that time.
Small provincial club.
Yeah, like I think it's a town of about 350,000 people or something like that.
Oh God, I'm not sure then.
Lens. And in fairness to Smeetser, and I think we should end on this, he scored 27 goals in 80...
Actually, Neil's decision at the end of
27 goals in 81 games for the Czech Republic.
I remember him playing for the Czechs.
That's not bad going. That's actually one in every 3 games.
He was like, cheers for the maths, but like he is now, I just remember him being a very good international player, so to suggest he couldn't carry the water would be a bit...
Of this team, he'd be out of his depth.
He wouldn't be carrying the water, John.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on. Another one, Damien Gilchrist on Twitter. I remember 99, like it was yesterday, me and my mum jumping on the couch, roaring after Sheringham's goal, and then those 5 words etched in my memory, and Solskjaer has won it. My mum passed away June the following year. She was a lifelong United fan, so to share that was amazing.
That's a great memory.
That's a great story to have.
That's sport, though, in many respects. Like, so it's like, and people's memories of it it's the time, the place, and where you were,
who you were with
in your life at that point. You know, and that's why. the memories of like your teenage years finals. They are like, that's why we all end up like nostalgic, saying things aren't as good as they used to be, because they don't matter as much now, really. To some degree.
I used to always be very encouraged as well by the fact that, like, when Galway were playing Mayo in the 90s and I was a kid or whatever, and we'd build up from the summer on the farm at home, my father would be every bit as disappointed after the game as I was, and I suppose he was well into his 50s, even 60s at that stage, and I was like, hopefully it'll matter to me as much when I get on in life, and it still does. And often you're introduced to sport by your father.
Definitely, yeah. Also, Pool lost same amount of Champions League games this season as Spurs, so Premier League losses are irrelevant from Big Al in Dublin. Yeah, we went over that. Lads, I think a lot are underestimating Spurs. Last season was the first in years that Liverpool have finished ahead of them. Anything could happen in this match. It's from Brian.
Yeah.
Listen, I generally believe that if there's a team that can live with Liverpool, it's Tottenham, because they have that physicality, they have that fitness levels, they have that technical ability. So by no means am I thinking it's going to be a walk in the park for Liverpool. No chance.
I actually have a bit of a sneaky feeling for Spurs. I know we're talking about reasons why Liverpool should win, but I just can't escape this niggling feeling that Spurs can sort of get through the ropey patch of the match, and then if it's tight as the game goes on, I don't know. It's like, you can analyse this game to death, and I think there's very logical reasons to go for Liverpool, and they've been highlighted and identified, but I don't know. I just have this sort of...
If Liverpool go 1-0 up and Spurs are obviously stretched a bit, that could be carnage for Spurs. Like, they will have to leave gaps. Liverpool are unbelievably good on the counter.
But Tottenham have got centre-halves who can cope with that. In Alderweireld, Vertonghen, they're two of the most mobile centre-halves you've got. They can deal with it. They can put their full-backs in advanced areas.
Who do you think plays in front of the Spurs? Well, it depends. You're talking about a 4 or a 5, Gary, but in terms of like the defensive midfielder for Spurs as such, I mean, obviously Sissoko's been brilliant, but there's this like Wanyama, Eric Dyer, what are they going to do there? I don't know what your sense or what your opinion might be.
I definitely think Sissoko will play. I think
of course,
an unbelievable resurgence for Tottenham this season, bearing in mind they look like they've done their money in terms of getting him in from Newcastle. And in a season then when they didn't buy anyone in the summer window, he's really come into his own. But that athleticism, that power is going to be needed in that midfield. He's able to close people down, he's able to bully people, and he doesn't get overrun in there. That'll be massive. But whoever gets the nod alongside him, will they go for Winks in terms of midfielder who don't have that physical capability but can look after the ball better than any of those other options, a Dyer? And that might be what you need. There's where you get your little bit of respite, someone who can control the ball in tight situations and just keep the ball moving, allow your fullbacks to get in advanced areas and push Liverpool back. So that's the reason why it's so intriguing, this game. And flip side as well, who plays in Liverpool's midfield? I mean, do you go for Henderson? Do you go for Milner? Milner, considerably higher stats in terms of creating chances in that midfield area. I think he's double any one of his Liverpool midfielders. But then you look at Henderson, think of the energy that he gives you. I'll be very surprised if Wijnaldum doesn't play, because of what he gives you. He's slightly different than all of those midfielders in that he gets into the box and is a goal threat. So it really is one of those finals that you just can't put nail down what you think the teams will be, what you think the tactics will be. That's why it'd be so interesting come that hour before when we get the team lineups.
There are a couple of guys as well that could be vulnerable in extremely hot conditions, you could imagine, because the effort Henderson,
Milner and Henderson.
I think so, particularly probably Milner, but like Henderson's work rate is absolutely insane, and this will be probably the hottest game certainly they've had all season anyway, by a long stretch.
Also as well, Harry Kane, is he starting?
I don't think he will.
No,
I have a feeling that he won't actually as well. I mean, I suppose the argument is like, what's the biggest risk? Pochettino and they've had a couple of weeks and they'll have worked through all the scenarios. So I mean, if they start him and then all of a sudden it's not working out and they have to change things up, they'll be able to. They've played without him for a period of time, so it's not going to unsettle them. So some people might think you try from the start and see. But I've had the feeling that he might be held in reserve. I don't have any insider tracks, so I mean this is all that it is. Is it still? Would you still like to have that presence? That again, we talk about, if they stay in the game for long enough, and to have this option to come in and maybe the lift and what that could bring to proceedings and how even that might play with Liverpool's mind. I don't know. It's if it's 50-50 and he hasn't played in a while, I think I'd be inclined to not start him. But I can completely understand why the temptation is there to throw him in.
And if you start him as well, you're probably thinking he's definitely going to come off at some stage, because he's not going to be 100% fit in terms of match practice coming in from the background that he's come in. So then you're thinking, well, if he doesn't start, we can always bring him on. So I don't think he'll start.
Gary, your thoughts?
I can see the merit in both decisions. I can see that certain people will say, listen, Tottenham's chances will be few and far between, so you'll want Harry Kane to be on the end of them. Likewise, I agree that they have not struggled without him as such, and the pace that Moura or Son will give you. And at times when Son plays with Kane in the team, his role gets marginalised, and he's not the same player. He's electric whenever he's leading the line for Spurs. So I can see the merit in both of them. And probably I think that the mobility of either Son or Moura spinning into those vacated fullback areas and trying to drag Van Dijk out there, maybe isolate Matip or whoever the other centre-half is, and then maybe then bring Kane on later in the game when it's got a bit more stretched and it gets a bit tense. But as the guys already said, you've got to make sure you're still in the game at that stage.
Yeah, and kind of Pochettino's been very, very coy on it. He hasn't really given away too many details on it. Like, I think it was last week he said towards the end of last week he'd come back into proper team training, but that's not a lot. That's not a lot of time of full training, is it?
The stake, I know the game. Like, everyone has to ask the questions, and naturally, but I don't think there's any. He won't have said anything that I think that will give the game away. I think this will be a total. It's there's no reason to be transparent with the information here, to be honest. Like, why would you do it? I think I'm sure that and as Gary mentions, the different options that are presented, like, Liverpool have probably had to prepare with two scenarios in mind, so I think you want to try and keep them guessing as long as possible, definitely.
And we do think Roberto Firmino is definitely going to start.
I would have thought so. Yeah, I would have thought so.
Klopp seems fairly adamant that he is fully fit at the very least.
Yeah, and he still is important if they want to operate at a particular intensity. I still think they're at their best when he's there. So again, you never know with these scenarios. They've had a couple of weeks, behind closed doors stuff. You never know what little niggles and stuff could have been picked up. I mean, Ireland picked up a couple of injuries in a training camp, but it's not in anybody's interest to lay it all out there and say what the story is. You can always have who knows, at 7 o'clock we could be looking at a team sheet and we've been spun a yarn all along. It's entirely possible.
Dummy teams. We'll go full GA on it.
Yeah.
We did do a round of predictions in the office actually earlier on in the week with a big whiteboard out in the OTB offices. My selection isn't on it at the moment. Can we get it up on screen here? Guys, our off the ball predictions, can we get that up on screen? There we go. So Shane, our producer Shane Hannon, 2-1 Spurs. No, 3-1 Spurs. Do we have a tally there, Shane? 6 Spurs, 5 Liverpool.
6 Spurs, really? Yes.
How many United fans are there? How many of those guys are United fans who are going for Spurs 3-1s and 2-1s?
I'll look through it there. Shane's
a United fan, isn't he?
Shane's a United fan, yeah. Niall, he's a United fan. He's going Spurs as well. Who else is there? Trying to see them there now. Enda at the bottom as well.
I want to know what lottery tickets Enda is picking tonight. He's not only giving you the 2 all draws, he's actually giving you what'll happen
after extra time. Who's any selections there?
4-2 after extra time is that's optimistic. Now, then again, the modern the Champions League run this year, you can't discount anything.
Exactly.
Dahi and Shane, neither would be from football strongholds in Monaghan and Tipperary, but their 2-1 Liverpool is quite a stable selection.
Yeah, so you're saying
Shane has just said that's harsh. It's not Shane. Although Monaghan, in fairness. Yeah. All-Ireland semi-finalists, that's football. Sorry, that's Gaelic football though. Now, I'm on about, yeah.
That says it all.
Yeah.
The fact that he probably call, if he called it soccer as your first.
Why would I be discussing their Champions League predictions while saying like football stronghold was Gaelic?
That says all. His instinctive reaction was to come in there with a GA related reference, so he's completely disqualified himself for proceedings there.
Did love Gerta Keegan and the Billy Bagster Lounge.
Oh, did yeah.
You'd have had many memories of Gerta Keegan.
Oh, many a day. Yeah, you'd have the cows overlooking the pitch as well. If things weren't going well in the match, you would sort of start just looking to the wildlife.
I remember Germany were playing Northern Ireland in an international on a Saturday night, and Galway United were playing Monaghan United in Gerta Keegan the following day, and we arrived on the bus, and we met this group of Germans, and they'd been there for about 3 hours because they wanted to come before the crowds arrived. there were probably about like 80 people at the game, and 50 of them were in the bar, like genuinely.
Yeah,
one of them was Billy Bagster actually.
Who was managing the team at the time?
He used to let them. You'd go into the bar beforehand, maybe 20 minutes before kick-off. The Monaghan lads would be outside doing their warm-up and Billy be inside having a fag in the bar. What an absolute hero.
Yeah, a great man.
He once, of course, Billy's famous line was, he was talking about the defending of Wes Charles. It's one of my favourite Billy Baxter lines. He actually said it on national radio.
He did.
And he said...
Can you repeat it on national radio?
You can. It was the late...
Was he allowed to say it on national radio?
It was the late George Byrne.
It wasn't actually, well, it was on Anna Olivia, Dublin station.
It was the late George Byrne, and if you're offended by this, I don't think you should be, to be fair, but they said...
Okay, Neil's getting a bit worried now.
Oh, God.
They said... so
get your hand over the dump button, Shane.
George said, Billy, you know, do you remember Wes Charles, the Caribbean defender, all action, very popular guy.
He was.
Good player. And Billy was a little bit unconvinced, so he's like, Billy, what do you think of Wes Charles, the defender? And he goes, well, sometimes he defends like John Charles, other times he defends like Ray Charles. And I actually met Billy a few years ago and I reminded about that and he'd forgotten about it.
There you go. That's a good tangent.
An absolute.
Anyway, Monaghan, in summation...
Monaghan's not a football
No,
song.
well, they let the club... I mean, the club died. So, I mean, that says a lot, really, doesn't it?
They brought out a good documentary with Roddy Collins in it beforehand.
So the club died.
Yeah, it did. But in fairness, so you do think of the McCaffrey as well, Sean McCaffrey.
Oh no, there have been
some great football people.
There actually have been some good footballers coming out of the area.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, that's footballers, not Gaelic footballers, Shane.
Anyway, a couple of minutes now. We'll take an ad break. Just a couple of more texts to get through. James Kelly on YouTube. Either a handy Liverpool win or Spurs winning a tight one. That was kind of echoing what you were thinking. The longer the game goes on, you might be edging towards Spurs a little bit.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, like you're probably covering all the bases with that prediction. To be fair, but you know, the only one left is a handy Spurs win or Liverpool in a tight one. You know,
what are you going for that? 2-1 Liverpool?
No, I maybe 2-1 Spurs. Maybe 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Liverpool.
But an unlikely howler just coming into the mix just to destroy your theory that Liverpool don't have them in them.
If it goes to extra time, though, everyone
Alisson mistake. That would be the story for you know, if you're writing the story as like you're trying to do a colour piece, or if there was a goalkeeping incident again that did Liverpool 1 year on, you know, that would be the killer angle.
I just have images of like Enda in some bar when it's a late equaliser to make it 2-2 and you just start celebrating. Yeah, my 4-2 after extra time is going to happen.
Yeah, or you know, Liverpool goalkeeping mistake, and suddenly Loris Karius is like, you know, he becomes central somehow to.
Can we get it up again? Actually, I just want to make one last point on this. It just shows the. So this reflects the overwhelming optimism of humanity. Really, nobody's going for anything less than 2 goals in the game, and that's very, very possible. It could be very cagey. 1-0. 1-0 is very possible.
Well, now Christian and Gerrard haven't. You know, that could be nil-all Spurs penalties or something. But I mean, I see what you're saying there. What, like 2-0 is the lowest
3-1,
score
3-1.
prediction?
4-2 after extra time. I think that deserves a mention again.
3-2 from Will there, Liverpool. Yeah.
That's why bookmakers invariably make money, because people don't want to bet on things they don't want to happen. Like, so nobody bets in the draw.
I tend to bet in the draw.
Do you? Marks you down as a different man. Yeah.
Something different.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right, on that note, we're going to take a quick break and for news as well, but Gary, Johnny and Dan are all going to stick around till 5 o'clock, so don't go away.
Join the conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
At Lexus, we've always been driven by innovation, relentlessly pushing the boundaries of beautiful design and imaginative technology, anticipating the ways in which our world is changing, so you're ready for the future. It's why the entire Lexus range is 100% self-charging luxury hybrid and 0% compromise. Test drive our 192 range at your Lexus retailer and experience no plugins, no diesel, no compromise for yourself. Lexus. Experience amazing.
What makes your beach holiday Travel Republic perfect? A gentle stroll along a golden sandy beach.
And skies made from fluffy pink candy floss.
Find your perfect beach holiday. From the Algarve to Florida, Lanzarote to Dubai, with prices to suit every budget. Reserve your place in the sun from just €1. Book now at travelrepublic.ie. Terms apply. See site for details.
A dog like me isn't easily impressed, but your man doesn't seem to be doing too bad with the business. Not that I tell him. Even saved a few quid by insuring the van with the AA, so I can continue to sit up here, riding shotgun, lord of all I see. I tell you, if I had 2 tails, I'd wag them.
Did you know that the AA does van insurance too?
Go to the AA.ie and get €75 off today. Who's got clever van insurance? Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Minimum premium of €339. AA Ireland Limited Trading as AA Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The excitement builds again as the Republic of Ireland take on Gibraltar on Monday, June 10th at Aviva Stadium. Mick McCarthy's team have started well in qualifying for Euro 2020, and you can show your support for the boys in green by being there for their next home game. The Republic of Ireland versus Gibraltar, June 10th at Aviva Stadium. Kick-off 7:45pm. Get your tickets now from just €35 at fai.ie/tickets. Booking fee applies.
This bank holiday weekend at Lidl, there's more for everyone to enjoy. Responsibly, of course. So check out our 2 for €24 mix and match deal on all your cooler box favourites, like 12 packs of Heineken, Budweiser, Carlsberg and Bulmers. Only this weekend, only in store, and only while stocks last, which mightn't be long at this price. Lidl, more for you. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Don't miss your chance to save big this weekend at the Harvey Norman Bank Holiday Weekend Sale. Unmissable deals and the biggest savings across appliances, technology, furniture and bedding. Like up to 30% off TVs. Tablets from just €79. Up to 25% off washing machines. And an incredible €200 off selected notebooks. And as always at Harvey Norman, we've matched all our competitors' prices, even their sale prices. So why shop anywhere else? The Harvey Norman Bank Holiday Weekend Sale. In store and online. But hurry, must end Monday.
Go!
Closing time. A girl sits alone on the curb, head down, worse for wear.
Do you remember me?
This young lad sits beside her, says he knows her, can walk her to her place.
Your friends told me to take you home.
His pals don't blink when she staggers and falls. They shrug it off with,
Nice work, pal.
Here, better leave it to it.
Enough is enough. Let's stop excusing sexual harassment and sexual violence. Learn more at gov.ie/no excuses or in an emergency call 999. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
That's it. Enough is enough. I'm going to give you a right.
Paintwork ready for a revamp? Get to B&Q. We've a massive paint range at everyday low prices. Like 5 litres of Dulux Standard Coloured Emulsion 5 litres for just €30. You can do it when you B&Q it.
There's a smarter way to find your perfect 192 than following the crowd. Subtract all the noise that's out there. Then choose a reliable brand. Like one sculpted in Germany over 120 years. Filter the list for class-leading connectivity. Now select the one with the smartest choices around. Like 0% PCP or HP Finance. €3,000 scrappage or 3 years free servicing. Make the smart switch to Opel. Discover Grandland X and Mokka X at our 120-year anniversary event. Visit Linda's Opel Finglas and Turvey for more. Opel. Born in Germany. Made for Ireland. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Deposit required. This is a hire purchase agreement provided by Bank of Ireland Finance, a registered trading name of Bank of Ireland. Offer until June 30th.
Take the pill. It'll help you sleep better. And I need some peace and quiet.
Don't you worry. I look after your money and the bills. And take a few bob for my expenses.
When you force a vulnerable person to do something against their will, that's abuse. And it's the slippery slope to coercive control of their personal affairs and finances, over where they live and who they live with. SafeguardingIreland.org, promoting the rights of vulnerable adults.
Across Ireland on 106 to 108 FM and at newstalk.com. This is Newstalk.
Good afternoon from the newsroom. I'm Fiona Ash. Officials in the US city of Virginia Beach have named the 12 people killed by a gunman in a municipal building. 11 of the victims were local authority workers and 1 was a contractor. The gunman fired indiscriminately before dying in a gun battle with police. He's been identified as Dwayne Craddock and described by police as a disgruntled city employee. Authorities said they would only refer to him by name once in order to focus attention on the victims. At least 4 people were injured, including a police officer whose life was saved by his bulletproof vest. Ian Bailey's solicitor has criticised French authorities for not respecting the Irish judicial system. It's after a court in Paris found Ian Bailey guilty in his absence of the 1996 murder of Sophie Toscan-du-Plantier in Cork. The court will also issue a new European arrest warrant. Solicitor Frank Buttimer says the Supreme Court has already ruled in the case, so French proceedings show disrespect.
That disrespect does not just apply to decisions which have been made previously to seek his unlawful removal. It also is a disrespect to the office of the DPP in the sense that the French utilised the same evidence and only the same evidence was caught as gathered by the Irish police, which was wrongly criticised by the DPP 20 years ago. Nothing has changed since.
62 people have been killed or seriously injured over the last 5 June bank holiday weekends. Gardaí will be targeting drug drivers across the country this weekend. Chief Executive of the RSA, Moya Murdoch, says the summer months are some of the most dangerous on our roads.
People partake of weekend socialising and they take risks, and that's the problem here. We want to get the message out, enjoy the bank holiday, but do not mix drink or drug driving. Do not partake and do not take the chance you will end up in a bad way.
Don't forget, for all the latest news updates, you can go to our website, that's newstalk.com.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Des Kelly Interiors. For the latest trends in carpets, vinyls and wood flooring, Des Kelly Interiors, where quality flooring costs less.
Rain will spread across the country from the west this evening, breaking up into showers overnight. Winds becoming gusty, especially at long Atlantic coasts. Relatively mild overnight, with lowest temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
Yeah, welcome back to Off the Ball. Neil Treacy here with you until 6 o'clock. Still another hour of football to get through with Dan McDonnell, the Irish Independent, Johnny Ward as well alongside me, football journalist, and Gary Breen here as well. We will talk a little bit more about the Champions League final. I want to speak about Jurgen Klopp and Mauricio Pochettino specifically. Before that though, just when we went to the news there, you spotted a bit of news relevant to Irish football fans.
Well, Glenn Whelan's been released by Aston Villa, which isn't a massive surprise really. He was out of contract and he probably did have the profile of a player, you know, for a club that's gone from Championship to Premier League. There would have been a debate, would he get another year or not, but they've obviously opted to go for not. You know, they've released 8 players. Alan Hutton, Mika Richards is on the list, Albert Adoma, who's been involved. Some of the others hadn't necessarily been involved in the run-in, you know, and Whedon had been actually almost lauded really in their run from sort of February, March. It picked up. He did make a mistake in the semi-final, but generally had done very well. So I think he's obviously in Ireland camp. You know, he's coming into Ireland camp now. It's one of those ones where I wonder, and I don't know. I don't have any. Would he have known? You know, I think he
I'd say the fair
probably
idea,
would have probably suspected it to some degree. You know, unfortunately, like, you know, as a senior player out of contract, when you're looking to make a step to the next level, unfortunately, you probably tick the boxes for being very vulnerable in this situation. But there's still a harshness about it that you put your heart into it for the year and then you're sent packing. But I don't know. I think he's probably experienced enough as well to know the game too and know that these things sometimes come your way.
Gary, are you surprised to hear that? I mean, a player of his experience, even just to kind of have him around for one more year, might have been handy in the Premier League, even not to start him every week or something.
Yeah, I can see the logic in that, in terms of he's obviously has a role to play in any team. He does it so well for Ireland over the years as such. He wouldn't be everyone's favourite midfielder in terms of being expansive, but he gets the job done. But I think you're right. I think you probably know a month or two before there can be certain different circumstances. They may well have said, listen, if we get promoted, no, there won't be. But if we don't make it, then we'd love to have you around again to try and make it happen. But I'm sure that he can look back on his contract at Villa when the remit would have been, can you get us back into the Premier League? He's played a massive role in that, so he can be proud of his achievements in doing so.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get fixed up. I mean, I think he'll get fixed up at Championship level. I don't know what he wants to do. Like, you wouldn't know where he wants to be, but he's obviously back in the Ireland squad now. And Mick McCarthy is and that was something he was desperate to do. And Mick McCarthy lauded the fact that his physical shape and he's kept himself, you know, able to play Championship football at a good level. Like, I don't know who's come up even from League One to Championship level this year. The likes of sort of a Charlton or whoever else has come up this year. I'm trying to think who else.
Charlton, Luton.
Oh, Luton come up, and was it Barnsley?
Barnsley as well,
okay, I don't know actually. He could probably maybe do better in some of those clubs, but he would be the type of player if you wanted to adjust to that level. Yeah. Like, he'd be a fantastic signing for you know, clubs that are trying to do basically to do what Villa did to a degree and push for promotion. And
he's an underappreciated player, Whelan, as well. Like, you know, he's actually a very good footballer. When he's like, I think a lot of people view him from his Ireland days when he was kind of taught not to play any football and just break up play. He's actually a very good player and probably won't be appreciated enough for what he was.
Oh yeah, and would have been immensely popular at Stoke as well.
Yeah, I think also a big decision on it. It won't have been just Aston Villa's decision. And we may well say, listen, well, why wouldn't you have an experienced player there for a year to get back? But he may well have said, well, listen, I'm getting to the end of my career now. I don't want to be playing one game a month. I want to be playing regularly. So he may well have took that decision out of Villa's hands and said, no, listen, I'm not playing week in, week out. I'll go and make sure that I am somewhere.
Yeah.
And of course, he wants to play for Ireland. So he has to be playing regularly to keep that position.
Yeah, and I mean, like Glenn Whelan's a dub, like potentially the Euro 2020 has crept up. It's been below the radar because we've been in completely crisis mode for the last couple of months, nearly for the last sort of 9 months to a year. But you sort of forget at the same time how big qualifying for a tournament in Dublin effectively could be.
The chance to play in your home city.
And for Whelan it would be a swan song, to be fair. I think that would be the end of his international career. And next
he's already had a farewell game.
That's true, yeah. It's going to be his actual one.
He won.
Yeah.
Kind of like David Breen coming back with the dog.
Yeah, when he starts turning up for training in 4 years' time, it's like, Glenn, just, But there is that sense that I think for some of the lads next season, like, it's a tournament year. And if you think that there's a chance that Ireland are going to get there, that might be number one. I mean, I'd say he's done very well in life, you know what I mean? I'd imagine he's set up well enough that he doesn't necessarily need to make decisions purely for financial reasons now. I think he can look after, his ambitions and getting the best out of this remaining spell of his career.
I was mentioning how anyone who's in Madrid has messaged me to say oh yeah, I'm in Madrid. One of them has Pat O'Neill, who I play a bit of ball with. He's just texted me a photo of himself and Andre Pirlo. Just on the street in Madrid. He's like, I'm trying to arrange a scoop for you, and I just texted him back and I said, you've never looked less handsome, Pat.
I was going to say, I bet Pirlo looks absolutely magnificent still, doesn't he?
When has he never looked magnificent?
Yeah. Exactly.
Pirlo had a good year or two at New York City, actually.
He did.
Looked like he was sort of booking restaurant reservations while strolling around midfield.
The best Italian in town.
Yeah.
What a player.
I love watching him. I used to watch those New York City games, and it was hilarious because David Villa went there and actually really threw himself into it. But Pirlo just sort of, it was casual enough in his approach, but then he would occasionally just turn it on and remind you how insanely good he was.
Speaking of, if you're talking about Whelan though, and Pirlo played at a proper level for such a, this is well beyond me at this stage of my life, but just look after yourself physically and, and when in terms of training, like Ryan Giggs, and you can have a very long career. What a player. What a player.
Well, look at the AC Milan discarded him and he goes and wins everything with Juventus when they throw him on the scrap heap. Incredible player.
Everything except the Champions League though, wasn't it?
Yeah, did he take that box? No.
Oh no, did he get one with AC Milan? Sorry.
I'm just thinking, I'm thinking more as Buffon is the Champions League.
I'm wrong. Pirlo would have won in 2007 actually with AC Milan.
Buffon is the one who's had the Champions League love hate. Well, just the thing that eluded him all the time.
Just go back to the Champions League. I want to bring up Jurgen Klopp and Mauricio Pochettino because we've barely spoken about them so far. On Pochettino, I was reading this morning, he had his Spurs player doing a hot coal walk in the last week or so.
Not convinced, Gary?
All this type of nonsense. I mean, listen, he knows what his player's all about. That's just such a PR thing, isn't it, leading into the Champions League final? But he knows who his go-to men are to be doing things like that.
It's a long way removed from Brian Clough having the lads train around a roundabout before games in the European game and having.
But is it not the absolute wrong thing you want your footballers to be doing the week before a Champions League final?
I don't know much about walking on hot coals, to be honest, at least in the actual literal sense.
Really, he said he was one of the first to do it anyway, so at least he led by example on it.
Yeah, again, you're talking to the wrong guy here, Dan.
I have no experience of hot coal walks, no. Gary? No.
Any bizarre team building things you would have had to do down the years, Gary?
Well, one time with Sunderland, Mick McCarthy made us go in the North Sea after a game or something like that, and it was horrendous. And one of our players, Julio Arca, got stung by a jellyfish and went into an anaphylactic shock. It was horrendous.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's funny that wasn't mentioned in the subsequent kind of Friday media briefing. But, yeah, he's out this week. He's, I how do I explain this? Yeah, he got jellyfish poisoning.
Roy Keane used to Roy Keane took his couple of teams for like military camps and stuff.
Yeah,
didn't they? A couple of them have done that at various times.
Was that an actual military camp, or was it just training on a Monday morning?
No. That was, it was again, they escaped from this metaphoric feeling of that to actually living through it. But it's more of a pre-season endeavour, I would have thought, to be honest, than a pre-final.
You do wonder though what Liverpool's training must be like. They are extremely fit, and they've made, like, some of these players were playing in the World Cup, and it just seems almost absolutely relentless. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what level of, like, when they do all the stats now in terms of distances covered in games, what the Liverpool team now would be, say, compared to your average Champions League finalist 10, 20 years ago.
But there seems to be really good management of it, because they do look fitter as the season wears on down the last few years with Klopp.
The sports scientists will know exactly where them players are. It's what we talked about Harry Kane. Pochettino will know whether or not he's hitting those targets, whether or not he is match fit, regardless of the fact he ain't played for so long. But it's a great article, and we're saying this about build up to like it was in the old days, FA Cup final. You go read all these great articles, and Klopp has one today where he's saying about pre-season training, where his players collapsed on the floor in 3:00 in the afternoon after having been training their second session of the day. They'd been starting training at 7:00. And when they were collapsed on the floor, he turned around to them and said, listen, you think you're tired now, you'll know what tired means when we do the third session of the day.
We've all been there, yeah.
But isn't it funny, though, that, like, you know, how perceptions change as well? Because if you told a story like that about someone like Trapp, right, you know, who was regarded for these like rigorous routines, but it was more monotonous rather than maybe this incredible intensity. But when you have, there's an excitement with it, and your team has a great style and flow and stuff, the language is slightly different, you know. Whereas if it's a disciplinarian doing a double session or 3 sessions a day, you know, they're sort of portrayed in a slightly different way, you know.
They are two managers, though, where it's quite clearly obvious that, you know, man management is such a big thing for them. The players are 100% bought into every single thing they're doing.
Yeah, and what's very difficult about that is players who are not playing, you know, and like the likes of Origi to do what he did. You know, I definitely think that's a sign of a guy like who's exceptional in terms of just getting everyone on board and probably treating them great, but treating them individually as well. Like, and that's what he's done.
I wonder what so much is actually. We draw conclusions out of like 90-minute games, and they lead to like sort of dramatic sweeping statements. And this is what, like, it's a media thing. It's what we do. Like, you analyse everything. That if Klopp loses another final, you just know in the next like 48 hours there's going to be.
It's written already.
There's going to be a chipping away, and like he could lose it for just a completely freakish sort of reason, but it adds to the list, and then it leads you to look into the psychology of it, and is there something deeper here about his teams? And like, it will be unfair, but you just know that if Liverpool do lose, that's what's going to hang over them here, you know. And I don't know. Like, at the same time, I still think, you know, that in these, like, he's got an amazing two-legged, you know, tie record, and about these one-off games. And Gary spoke about, like, you know, how the tactics are key. Like, has he made mistakes in the past around these matches? You know, does he have a flaw there? You know, like, I don't know. I mean, it's unusual that he would still. I know the argument would be he was underdog in a lot of those finals, and it is a bit. And I think it was mentioned a bit earlier on. He probably wouldn't have been expected to win all of these games, but you know, as much as he's a confident guy, I must niggle away at him too. You know, I think you said it earlier. Yeah. Whoever wins this, like, it's the biggest moment of their managerial career tonight, without a shadow of a doubt. Everything they've done before is right, you know, if it happens. And it's just it's a good story. I think Gary actually said it in his opening comments that you're almost happy for whoever wins here. You know, there's a good story behind both, you know, and it's you know, both managers have earned it. Both managers have been given time, which is, I think, one of the nicer aspects of the stories as well. It's not someone who's come in and taken someone else's team and someone else's players. Like, they've both managed to mould a team into their shape and into their personality, into their style. So there's a real rewarding sense of who wins it has earned it. But I don't know. It sort of seems like in that respect, though, for the loser, and particularly if it's Liverpool, the fall is going to be brutal. You know, the fallout is going to be brutal because it may never be this close.
I think if Liverpool had won the league, this would be a real bonus start. I know it would be a double, but they really want to win the league. But to lose tonight, What's the narrative of the season?
At the quarterfinals, people were thinking there was a debate. There was a school of thought that they should nearly throw the Champions League at that point. You know, and now the whole legacy of the season revolves around it. You know.
And on the flip side, then everyone was saying, "What is Pochettino doing? Disregarding the FA Cup and the League Cup a few months back? You know." You need to get some silverware.
Yeah, I think the FA Cup and the League Cup are completely irrelevant, to be honest. Like, and nobody would remember if Spurs won the FA Cup. Nobody cares. Genuinely, like, this is where we're at. Champions League or Premier League, the rest doesn't matter. And if Liverpool had won the FA Cup this season, their fans literally wouldn't give a toss. Like, they have to win one of the two.
Gary, are Spurs this season?
They would love to win the FA Cup, Johnny. You're wrong. They would.
I think it's a bit dramatic,
not in context of the Champions League. You take that over that. Of course you would.
Nobody cares anymore, Gary.
They do. Tottenham fans do, John. That's the difference. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing for Tottenham fans. And Dan, you made the point. I think Liverpool will be in and around this competition again next year, in the next 3 or 4 years. I don't think Tottenham will be. And this is the problem we have, is that Tottenham got this brilliant new stadium. They had this brilliant, young, vibrant team. But with every season, it's actually getting weaker. They're losing players, and there's a potential again for them to lose them again now. The likes of Alderweireld, Vertonghen and Eriksen haven't signed their contracts. And that's why it's so pivotal for them. If they can be Champions League winners, then potentially they can give these players the money that their performances deserve, and maybe bat away the bigger clubs who come looking for them. But in terms of managers, Pochettino, Klopp, Pep Guardiola, they're the managers that these players are desperate to play for, in a way that you don't have that connection with Sarri. You certainly don't have it with Emery. I doubt that a lot of United players are starting to doubt Solskjaer now after that honeymoon period. They're probably looking at him, and it's a trust issue more than anything. And we've said about the squad, I think lots of times players can be a little bit delusional. We're all guilty of it, thinking you're better than you are. But there is a reality check that those players who are squad players for these both teams now must realise they are, because the teams are performing so well. So you can't go banging the manager's door down demanding to play.
Gary, you mentioned what Spurs are going to be doing in the summer there. How crucial of a summer is it for them, and does what happens tonight kind of dictate the way they go, or regardless of the result, do they have to kind of add depth to the squad and either get rid of or secure those players who are coming towards the end of contracts?
Oh, listen, they could spend millions and not get a centre half of the quality of Alderweireld. I mean, how he's available for £25 million this summer is ridiculous. I don't know how he's be able to negotiate that. Eriksen, again, is a game changer. It'd be difficult to find him. And I'm not saying they won't find him, because Pochettino is brilliant at developing these players, and also Klopp as well. This is a point that Dan made there. He's recruited these players and these squad, and he's took players that you don't normally associate with this level to a completely different level. Both managers has, and that's what's so impressive about them. But if you look at the Tottenham scenario, the worrying thing is the kind of contradictions that Pochettino's saying that, well, listen, if I win it, I've got to walk away. What more can I do? And you're thinking, he's very astute, Pochettino. He's very ambitious. He'll recognise whether or not if he's hit a ceiling at Spurs, he'll walk away. I've no doubt about that. But it does frustrate you a little bit that he's using the media. Just focus on trying to win it more than anything.
Does it reflect really well on him, though, that you have someone like Alderweireld whose future has been up in the air for probably 18 months now, but on the pitch he doesn't look like it's affected him one bit?
Absolutely.
That's because he's a top centre-half. I think United would be desperate for him. I would love to see him at Liverpool, though I wouldn't like to see it block the pathway of young Gomez. I think he's going to be a fabulous centre-half over the next couple of seasons. But there's no doubt they're in a difficult position. They obviously give big money to Harry Kane to keep him there, and that creates problems because the rest of the squad are going to say, well, I want parity, and they don't pay that. That's the problem.
That's going to be a big issue, yeah. Absolutely.
That's the problem they face, that they want to be considered one of Europe's elite, but they just don't pay the money.
Yeah, I suppose the thing is as well, I wonder, you talk about it's a credit to Pochettino, but the players probably see the manager's almost in this position as well too, to a degree. Like he's almost let his frustrations be known, be it through the media or whatever it might be, with the club. So it's not as if it's a case that they're massively at odds. I think that they're almost, they've somehow managed to stay in it together, even though there is this bizarre scenario, as Gary said, that Spurs could lose tonight, and within a week could be not within a week, but by the time August comes round, be completely asset stripped.
But what's amazing about Tottenham as well is not just how good that team is that he's built and how brilliant the manager is. Daniel Levy is an unbelievable, brilliantly football director, owner of I know he's not the owner, but he's the boss. That he's able to get players of that quality for a fraction of their worth. He's able to get Pochettino for ultimately a fraction of his worth, and he's still got a competitive team. He's built this incredible stadium. He's the type of figurehead at a club that the likes of United must be desperate for.
And because of some of the stadium and stuff that you mentioned there, and location and stuff, he'll probably be able to find a replacement. As much as it would be it's very hard to replace that, but they actually are an attractive package as well for to go wherever they want to go next. As much as it would set them back a period of time, but that's a fair point.
We probably will move on from the Champions League in a second. Before that, though, I might just mention Kevin Kelleher. Matchday squad at the very least. I mean, it's highly unlikely we're going to be seeing him on the pitch.
It's a proper story if he ends up on the pitch.
Exactly,
two goalkeepers are taken out, But
what a fantastic occasion for him so early in his career.
A young lad from Cork who came from Ringmat and Rangers England a couple of years ago. He's sitting with the squad now, getting ready to be part of a Champions League final experience. I remember Keller a couple of years back before the under-17, I think it was the under-17 Euros, it was like a press event that we did, and speaking to footballers can sometimes be difficult, but speaking to under-17 players, I mean, you're both embarrassed that you have to do it to a degree, and he was a really sort of polite but sort of nervous fella, braces, I think, sort of, just very much not wanting these questions. It must have been for the under-17 Euros a couple of years back, and yet now he's had this education at this club, and it's very possible that there will come a point in his next couple of years where he has to leave that club, and that's not to be negative about his ability. It's just that as a goalkeeper in particular, in any position, you need to get minutes eventually. And he's clearly very well thought of. He was involved in pre-season. But this life experience he's taken now, I hope he's absorbing it all. I really hope he's writing it down. He's just remembering what it's like, to sort of live through and be around this, because it's an exceptional thing to have on your CV, no matter what happens. And we spoke to Conor Masterson during the week, and it's a tough one. Masterson and Keller lived together for 4 years. This time last year, we're probably speaking about Masterson, or this time, 14 months ago, when Masterson was on the bench for the Man City game, we were speaking about him and thinking, maybe this could be the time for him. And football sort of forgets you quickly. Like, he had an injury and all of a sudden there's always someone coming through. And Masterson described this scenario of nearly having to say goodbye, moving out of his house a couple of weeks ago, saying goodbye to his mate, while his mate goes off to be part of the Champions League final squad. Now, they're meeting up this weekend because they're both going to Toulon with the Stephen Kenny's under-21 team. But he came across as a very level-headed fella, and I'm sure he's going to have a really good career. And whatever happens, he can always say he was part of a Champions League final squad. He'll have a medal, I think, if they win.
He would, yeah.
So, Rob Green was out there, and he was out there with a trophy. Kelleher will be out there in the part of the whole thing if they do. And
what were your thoughts on Rob Green, actually?
Sure. I wouldn't get too. I wouldn't get too offended by it. The other players seem to be enjoying him being out there rather than thinking, who's this lad?
I think the fact that he officially announced his retirement yesterday,
they knew what was going on.
They obviously knew. There was obviously a kind of a bit of a joke going on.
Story behind it. They really liked him, and he's probably been training, every day with the group over a period of time. So I think Gary would know way more about this than any of us. I think if they thought if he was an unpopular lad in the dressing room and he was a bit of a a bad influence, I don't think he would have been given that platform to do that.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Gary?
Well, listen, it's incredible, this third goalkeeper that you have in the squad now. You're seeing it with what's the lad who was a Ipswich keeper and then the Arsenal keeper, Richard Wright.
Richard Wright, yeah.
He's at City now, I think, and there was Taylor before that, and these are guys who they're never going to get a game, but they still have to be part of it, and they're able to get some longevity to their career. And why wouldn't you? Because you're long since retired.
Yeah, the longer it kind of went on, the more I was going, if I was Rob Green, I definitely would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Listen, he knew what was coming. And I said there's a lot more, there's more annoying things in football to get worried about than people egging up celebrations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can definitely, wouldn't be going too deep into it. But for Kelleher, it's brilliant, and I'm sure in time, as I said, I hope he's taken it all in, and in time he'll be able to really speak about his experience, because he was there. You know, he could always.
You hope this is a motivation for him to say, "Listen, I'm going to work so hard. I want to get back here." That's what you would hope would be the reaction.
Definitely.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, actually, rather than being a tourist, you know, to actually think, well, this is the level where I want to be, you know, and so he's in a good place for. I mean, as I said, the next 18 months or so, he's probably going to have to figure out about playing senior football somewhere. But for now, he's in a great place.
People will remember Brian Murphy, who went from Bowes over to England, a seriously good keeper. And I'm just looking at his stats here. Like since the start of the 2010 season, 2011, he's played in about 50 games, and he's just been an understudy.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit more disappointing as well, because I remember when Brian Murphy came home here, he spoke about how if he went back to England, he would want to play. That's what he wanted to do. Yeah. But he did settle into this thing, and it's easy. Like you walk a mile in their shoes to a degree. It's
would
easy.
Been on serious
it's
money
easy to say it.
Like.
He would have been on seriously. He was on the verge of coming home here around 2016. Before Dundalk started their European run, around that time he had offers, and then I think the suggestion was he got another contract around that time. Who did he join 2016?
Cardiff.
Portsmouth. He joined Cardiff. Sorry,
he's only 36.
A good deal at Cardiff, and that could be your security. That could be your long term. So it's.
I don't know though.
There's something that sits uncomfortably about it, but.
Maybe he could have played as well. Things maybe didn't work out for him, but like, you know, if you're a footballer, you should be a footballer.
There was always that Steve Harper at Newcastle, wasn't he, behind Shea, just happy to be there, top goalkeeper in his own right.
He was a local guy though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but the flip side as well. I remember Shea was out injured, and the first game he made himself available, they didn't put him in. They put Harper in. So Shea put a transfer request in.
That wouldn't.
Shea had a streak to. Shea had a determined streak. I think Shea came when asserting his own patch. Like, you know, I think he always had that. I think, Gary, to a degree.
Oh no, without a doubt. Any time if Alan Kelly was in the team ahead of him or Dean Kiley, he wasn't the squad player that you would want around the place, let me tell you.
No.
I do remember Brian, though, being a seriously good keeper. Like, he was definitely one of the best that ever played in the league.
No, he played a couple of times because he went over at Ipswich initially when Roy Keane was there, I think.
20 games for Ipswich.
But, again, you settle into that routine, and I don't know, football clubs will forget you if you get injured, so if they give you a contract for a long period of time, you'll probably take it.
Was it Bogart was the actual king of this?
Bogart.
Winston Bogart. He basically he actually celebrated how much money he was making while not playing.
It's a bit worse for a defender though. You know, there's every chance he probably should be in and around the squad with one or two injuries. I can understand why the goalkeeper gets into a particular mindset.
Okay, that's it for now. We are going to take a quick break afterwards. We're going to look a bit about the international break coming up, the Republic of Ireland back in action, Euro 2020 qualifiers coming up. Dan was speaking to James McLean earlier this week. It's some very interesting stuff in it, and we'll talk a little bit about that after the break.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Down to business.
Your town, your main street is on the road again, and we roll into the town that's regularly referred to as the best place in Ireland to live, Westport. We're broadcasting on Saturday the 8th of June from Knockronny House Hotel. Our panel of experts will be giving the town a health check and asking why Westport has such a buzz about it. We'll be talking to businesses big and small from the town and county, and there'll be a few surprises along the way. The event is free, but you do need a ticket, so simply go to newstalk.com/events to get a ticket.
Your town, your main street.
On Down to Business.
Live from Knockronny House Hotel in Westport on Saturday the 8th of June from 10 a.m. Proudly sponsored by IE Domain Registry.
On News Talk.
Have a great afternoon with Harvey Norman, the #1 in Ireland for beds, mattresses and bedroom furniture.
Go, Harvey, go!
I'm Brian, or as my agent likes to say at dinner parties.
Brian is the voice of Skoda.
Indeed I am. And as the voice of Skoda, I've seen every Skoda script under the sun. Rarely one this good, though. The Octavia Soleil is the shiny new addition to the Skoda range. It comes with sunset glass, Skoda Connect, LED lights, and heated half-leather seats. How's that for dinner party conversation? Brighten every journey with the limited edition Octavia Soleil. Visit skoda.ie.
And it all comes down to this. The winning parts of the Dubai duty-free Irish Open.
Come experience all the excitement of this year's Dubai duty-free Irish Open at the spectacular Lahinch Golf Course from the 3rd to the 7th of July. Watch the drama unfold as Larry, Fleetwood and Harrington take to this dramatic and challenging links course. Experience more with a fantastic festival of golf, live music and delicious food and drink. DubaiDutyFreeIrishOpen.com.
Escape to a country estate this summer, making time for family and friends at the 5-star Mount Juliet Estate. Experience fine dining in our Michelin star restaurant, The Lady Helen, or homegrown delicacies in The Hand, our Michelin plate restaurant. Indulge in estate activities on our Jack Nicklaus signature designed golf course and equestrian trails, or rejuvenate in our relaxing treatment suites and health club. Our range of estate activities, including Mount Juliet Juniors Club, ensures every guest gets the most from their getaway. To view and book our summer packages, visit mountjuliet.ie.
Summer has just begun, and already it's extraordinary. That's because there's an extraordinary sale at Kildare Village this June bank holiday weekend. If you've been waiting to get that Escada dress or holding out for that DKNY handbag, get into the car, get into Kildare Village and get it now. Take exit 13 on the M7, park for free and enjoy the extraordinary sale starting this June bank holiday weekend. Only at Kildare Village, where there's something extraordinary every day.
Rod Stewart, live at 3 Arena. Due to demand, an extra date, December 5th. Tickets from $86.25 are on sale now. Maybe subject to fees. Presented by Aiken Promotions in association with the Irish Independent.
At SuperValue, we love meat. And this week, our steak and wine sale is now on. Save 33% on fresh Irish strip loin, fillet and cowboy steak. Pair your steak with our specially sourced Italian wines. Buy any 6 bottles and save €10. Because if you want the best quality meat in Ireland, it's got to be SuperValue. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
It's time to make the move to a whole new world of Wi-Fi. Switch to Virgin Media to experience Wi-Fi at its smartest and get superfast broadband with Mixed TV for €59 a month for 12 months and €89 a month thereafter. Smart Wi-Fi from Virgin Media. It takes care of your Wi-Fi so you don't have to.
Terms and conditions apply. See virginmedia.ie. 12-month contract. Offer ends 31st of July 2019.
The Ultimate Food Lovers Festival is back. Taste of Dublin returns to the Ivy Gardens from the 13th to the 16th of June, celebrating the revolution of modern Irish food with over 20 restaurants, 30 top chefs, 160 interactive masterclasses, delectable drinks and live entertainment. Taste of Dublin, inspired by Neff. Book now. Tickets from €15 at tasteofdublin.ie. Booking fees apply.
Proudly supported by News Talk.
So that concludes the UniNest apartment tour. Included in the price are bills, security, bike storage and maintenance.
Pay my bills, store my bike and fix things that break. Is that a poster for a pizza night? Yes, cold pizza for breakfast. My favourite. They can do all this for only €240 per week. I wonder what else they can do. I wonder if you could also do 3,000 words on the impact of existentialism on postmodern thought?
No, unfortunately not. UniNest Student Residences. Amazingly affordable accommodation.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
Yeah, welcome back. Dan McDonnell, the Irish Independent, Johnny Ward and Gary Breen still with me. Epsom Derby's on at the moment, Johnny. Engrossed in it?
I do. It's very much dominated by Aidan O'Brien and Coolmore. They're just coming into this sort of last half mile now. So Dragano in a nice position under Ryan Moore. Sovereign making the running under Pádraig Beggy. Broome as well looks like he's travelling quite well out wide. Now it's going to get interesting. I don't know if I'm...
No, I don't think you did a whole race. There's 3 or 4 furlongs to go here. And Johnny's doing it in a slightly monotonous Father Stone-like tone, so it's not really he's not really bringing it...
They're kicking on for home.
I'll leave you watch that for a second because I can go now over to our good friend and off the ball, Jonathan Higgins, live in Madrid. Jonathan, afternoon.
Hello, guys. Welcome to a very, very hot Madrid. It's reaching fever pitch in every sense of the word. It's 31 degrees here. The place has been hopping with fans the last couple of days. It's absolutely bouncing. Football is completely taken over the city, and we're looking forward to a very good game here tonight under the sun.
First question for you: have you got your ticket yet?
I do. I'm one of the lucky ones that got got sorted. But
you got one, did you?
I've won. I'm sorted now. One of the lucky guys. It's quite ironic. Every place you look, there seems to be people just hunting for tickets. I heard a stat, I don't know how true it is, where 1 in 7 Liverpool fans doesn't have a ticket out here. And judging by the amount of people we've been asking around and the groups of friends we've met in the city the last couple of days, it seems accurate. An incredible amount of Liverpool fans in particular seem to have travelled with the hope of picking up or soaking up the atmosphere around the stadium here and around the city, which in fairness have been absolutely hot in the last couple of days.
Were you in Kiev last year?
I was indeed. So this is the second European Cup final in a row I've been working on. So it's a little bit easier destination this year, Madrid, as opposed to the jump around Europe to get to Kiev last year. And of course, we've all had the big hullabaloo about Baku in Munich as well. But thankfully, Madrid is a lot more accessible, and it's funny, you've seen even around the city this morning. Just went around for some breakfast early in the morning and soaking up. You see buses and buses of fans carting in from all sorts of routes all throughout Europe, coming here. Just everybody coming in for the big occasion that we have here ahead. But
can I ask him an honest question there? How long was he prepping the hullabaloo about Baku line? Might get you a ticket.
I've got
a ticket.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was watching the derby. By the way, the derby was absolutely insane. Absolutely. Andy Van Dijk won the derby, but there was
Van Dijk. There you go.
Van Dijk.
There we are.
There's your omen, Johnny. There's your omen.
That's another omen for later.
There was literally
there's a load of drunk Liverpool bars and pubs now who's back Van Dijk now. Right now. Oh God, can you imagine how dull they are? I told you Van Dijk, you'd win.
Van Dijk won, but there was about a neck between second and fifth. It was a really, really great finish to the race.
Jonathan, I might ask you as well, I would have seen a good few videos over the last few days of the atmosphere there in Madrid. A lot of the fans, fans mingling as well from both sides. Have you seen a lot of that so far?
Yeah, it's been ironic. It's the one thing that you may have thought with the way the semi-finals turned out, that you two English teams and you fear the worst straight away. I won't lie when you hear that, but no, it's been brilliant. From what I've seen, I've been primarily around the Liverpool end of the city, really, and kind of around the Pan Parks. But any venture I've walked around, it's been Liverpool fans have been outnumbered the Spurs fans, but everybody's mixing back and forth. It's great. There's a real positive atmosphere, and even I was just literally arrived at the stadium a short while ago, and there was a good bit of singing back and forth between the rival fans. It's great to see. Everything is in a positive spirit so far, and thankfully, touch wood, we haven't seen any of the nasty side of the game.
Yeah, and just over 3 hours until kick-off. What are you personally feeling like now? Is it still just excitement, or has almost a sick feeling set in any way?
No, I won't lie. I woke up this morning with the nerves in my stomach, and it's still at it. I'm looking up here at the stadium. It's a beautiful new stadium. It's about 45 minutes from the city centre. It's kind of one of these where they've moved the Gletico Stadium, where they've moved it out to the edge of the city. There isn't a lot around it, but it is a beautiful stadium. You see the fans are starting to swarm in from all angles here. You see the red and the white. You see loads of banners coming in. It's really that you can feel the buzz in the air. You can feel that there's a massive sporting occasion about to take place here in a couple of hours.
I've been to that stadium. It's absolutely excellent atmosphere there. I know it's obviously Atleti fans, but would compare very favourably to the Bernabeu, and it's gonna be electric there tonight. Like completely different to Premier League atmosphere, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've just left town, literally where Liverpool had their official fan stadium, and that was absolutely thronged. Literally from streets all around were packed up with Liverpool fans, and the noise was just you could almost hear it echoing across the city. So it was just quite ironic at times watching some of the locals getting explained by Liverpool fans just how Bobby Firmino was the best striker in the world and Virgil van Dijk was the number 4, and even though some hilarious clips yesterday of the Liverpool fans were so loud on the street, the people were being awoken from the midday siestas and were coming out singing along, jumping around. It's just a real party atmosphere already, and I've no doubt it will be bouncing later on for the final.
Jonathan, thanks a million for taking the call, and enjoy it.
No worries, guys. Talk to you soon.
Take care. That was Jonathan Higgins, one of our resident off-the-ball Liverpool fans. Sounds like it's going to be an incredible atmosphere later on there this evening. We are, though, going to turn attention now to the Republic of Ireland because once the Champions League final is over, all of a sudden that international break is right on the horizon. We're going to start. James McLean was across a lot of the newspapers today. Dan, I know you spoke to him in the Irish Independent, but he spoke to Will O'Callaghan as well for us earlier in the week. very interesting stuff. He says he feels the English footballing authorities have shown hypocrisy in how they've dealt with abuse suffered by players. Let's hear what he had to say.
James, a few weeks ago, you put up on Instagram after your birthday the card that you received and the abuse you received in it as well. Do you think the footballing authorities are doing enough about that? Because I think a lot of people were probably shocked about what was actually in that card when you put it up.
Don't they got honest truth?
Yeah.
They're a bunch of cowards, the footballing authorities. They're a bunch of hypocrites. You know, Sterling's this, he's that, he's a hero and he's getting awards. What I get week on week out compared to what he's got probably one game for the last 7-8 years, and there hasn't been a word. So yeah, they're a bunch of hypocrites, a bunch of cowards.
Did anyone contact you afterwards, or?
Oh, I got after we contacted them first, they kick it out. I got a measly statement just because there's a lot of pressure on them, which meant nothing, to be honest. But yeah, that was it.
I mean, I can't imagine it's easy for you to put up with that, to put up with what you get around poppy season as well as a footballer.
It's up, to be honest, it's just water off a duck's back now. It's you know, it's like I said, it's been on the last 7-8 years. So yeah, for me now it's just water off a duck's back. But it was just, the reason I put it up was just to highlight the fact that, you know, if I wasn't a white Irish guy, there would have been a bigger uproar. And I was right in doing that because there was still nothing. So, you know, I'll probably be point right.
Did you get any support from your fellow pros about it?
Yeah, obviously Johnny Walters speak out, which was nice of him. And I got a text of Kieran Westwood as well. I think he tweeted as well. So yeah, I got a couple off a few, but yeah, that's it really.
Do you have any why do the authorities not take the abuse you receive it seriously as like what Raheem Sterling has spoken about it? Like
again, just to put it bluntly, I'm a white Irishman, and you know, well, that doesn't matter to them. Yeah, you know, I mean, the same thing happened with Neil Treacy, doesn't it? He gets abused and about being Irish, this and that, and no one does anything. So, press on the pudding, isn't it? You're a white Irishman, no one cares.
Yeah, a white Irishman and no one cares. Pretty strong stuff from James McLean. Dan, you obviously spoke to him separately as well, but it was pretty much along the same lines what he said to you.
Yeah, it was a similar tone. Yeah, it was a very similar tone, and I mean, we probably knew that he harboured these feelings anyway, because he had posted up the birthday card whenever it was at the end of April. But he probably elaborated on it very strongly in a way that maybe might have surprised people. And yeah, I mean, like I always feel with McLean, I think he generally articulates his point very well in terms of how he feels, and probably the references to Raheem Sterling probably aren't going to. They're the comments that are going to provoke debate, because you're almost getting into the territory of like comparing sort of how how grades of discrimination are treated, and that's probably not going to. I can see the point he makes. It's probably not one that's going. It's going to be in the course of, say, the newspaper discussion. You know, someone said to him, "Well, the argument would be that, you know, Raheem Sterling has got criticism purely because of the colour of his skin, whereas there is a view out there, and it's not one that the person was asking the question was saying they felt that they shared themselves, but that McLean had brought it upon himself in some ways."
Yeah.
However, and I think McLean did respond to that by saying, well, you know, he didn't have a choice about who he is as such. This is his identity, and some of the grief that he takes and some of the comments in that card are purely to do with you know, the comments contained within do qualify as cases for. I mean, it's sectarian abuse. You know, it's pretty strong and serious stuff, and it generates. James McLean always generates a response, because I've had someone say to me, well, not every Irish player gets this, you know, so he can't say it's because he's a white Irishman, you know, or whatever it might be. But the thing is, McLean has probably, by standing up for his principles and standing over them, he has like exposed this latent prejudice that does exist towards Irish in England. It's almost like, well, we're perfectly okay with the Irish once they're not a bit uppity here, and, you know, they're not sort of they're actually expressing opinions about their they're not
the role of the British Army.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like you can't. There's no way anyone can condone the racism involving someone black who's a player, but there isn't like there's a lot of ambiguity about what James McLean gets, and that's racism. It's absolutely racist. I think he's not. I think some of his I think he's quite articulate. Like some of the stuff, like up to shinners and stuff like that. I don't think that's wise. I think it's inflaming things, and people will rightly or wrongly associate Sinn Féin with terrorism. But he's absolutely the subject of racist abuse, and I completely agree with what he said there. It's like it's fine to be racist towards an Irish guy if not a black guy.
Yeah, Gary, what were your thoughts listening to that?
I read Dan's article about it, and obviously we know about James McLean. It comes around most years, doesn't it, in terms of the poppy situation? But to any of the people I've been in around, when they would ask me the question, why doesn't he wear a poppy? I just say, listen, okay, just read his statement as to why he doesn't wear it, what had happened to the people of his city, and just digest that, educate yourselves, and then make an informed decision as to whether or not you believe he's right to abstain from wearing it. And more often than not, in fact, I've never had anyone who didn't agree with it once they knew the facts. And ultimately, racism, discrimination, a lot of it is based on ignorance, lack of education. Now, I know it's a hot topic in England. I'll be fascinated over the next coming days to read the newspapers in England in terms of the reaction to his comparison with Raheem Sterling. I don't think it'll be a positive one. But again, I think he was quite articulate initially when he made that statement to who the club he was playing for at the time. I think Stoke, where the hierarchy there said, the hierarchy said, well, why are you not wearing it? You're representing an English team as such. And he gave it. It was very informative for people who didn't know the situation, what had happened. And I think most people, when they do, go, okay, that's his right as an individual to choose to not to wear something that ultimately symbolises the British Army. I know, and I am aware Irishmen who fell, of course, during that times in that period, but he's made a decision based on what's happened in his city at the time there.
I know Gary's breaking up there, but like we spoke about this debate before. It's absolutely absurd how many people wear the poppy on TV and on across all those platforms. When like there's just a complete.
Listen.
I'm not saying it's wrong. But
the poppy debate's in one for November.
Please, let's not go down the point. I'm just saying it's a lack of individual thought about why you're doing this. I think James does think about it, and he's made a point. Why others don't follow is a sign of fear of the dictatorship of everybody else.
Well, one question that he was asked in the newspaper section was, do you feel that other players should take a stand with you? And I think that was an interesting point to raise. And he said, privately he receives sympathy, but publicly no. And then he sort of said, well, people want an easy life, don't they? And initially was he scoffing by saying that, but then he qualified it by saying, listen,
it's just not worthwhile.
The abuse I get is I wouldn't wish it. And the thing is, like James McLean's, and I think this is a very fair thing to say, like he's got a combative streak, like that is his personality.
On and off the pitch.
Yeah, like that's how he plays, as we see, and he embraces this issue in that manner, and that's probably what inflames people in the UK that much. It's his stance, but also that he's proud of it too. It's like, how dare he almost be proud of it as well, and that's the thing. It's like we respect your right to have an opinion once you sort of. You're not that loud about it.
Yeah, he should be doing this reluctantly almost.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like he has this ability to be off the cuff sometimes and put out stuff that's always going to attract
vilification.
Yeah, and he's a sharp enough fella, as well. I think he probably knows he's going to get a reaction with some of the stuff that he says too.
But you spend time up there in his family, it's only certain that this is.
Listen, I mean, I fully admire the fact that he has decided not to compromise his principles and to do what he's done. So
and not to just be quiet and accept it all. And
absolutely no, and I've no problem. I've never had any problem with that at all. I mean, Gary touched on it there. There's definitely, I think, equating it to the Sterling situation, I think there's a kernel of a very good point in what he's making in what he said. But I think just the fact that the way in which he expressed it, I think there was one line about, well, Sterling will probably get another award. That's just not going to play well in England.
He also said probably one game, which is not true.
But at the same time, I actually think he's beyond the point of probably caring as well, to the point, James McLean is the villain now in sections of English football, and he always will be. Nothing he does will change that now. So he probably doesn't have he's nothing to gain from being overly diplomatic now, with regard to this subject. But one or two of those comments, you just know when he's saying it, you're thinking, that's definitely going that there's going to be a backlash to a degree of this, but I think when you read through the entirety of his comments, I think you're thinking fair enough. But I was thinking, are one or two lines out of this going to get picked up in England and get taken in a way that could pose him problems? There's a very good chance that could have been the case. I mean, I think the Champions League final is on today, so to a degree it might have got lost where it was a regular Saturday.
Yeah.
I think maybe the English media might have made a bigger deal of this.
We are running out of time. Gary, I might just mention, looking forward towards the next week, the Republic of Ireland action against Denmark and Gibraltar. After the couple of wins in the first international window for Mick, how much are you looking forward to seeing them up against, I suppose, a better team really in Denmark, away from home? The first real challenge for Mick.
Listen, I'm really looking forward to, and the excitement about the Irish team is back for me. I just believe that we'll be well prepared. It'll be a difficult game. I was always wary about the lull from the end of the season to these summer games. It was something we always felt difficult to kind of navigate when we're playing, is that the emotions, the physical need of playing week in, week out, you're suddenly there. Suddenly there's a little bit of a drop. It's hard to get yourself back up again. But there's a lot of those guys who are now going into that Irish squad with real desire. I think of Conor Hourihane in terms of what he's achieved now. He's really excelled under Mick. He's now gone into the Premier League with Aston Villa. He must be turning up with his head up, his shoulders out, chest out. Sorry, he must be delighted to meet up. And I think all of them will be. And it's interesting. I was saying there, I've read a lot of Dan's articles in the build up to it. And a common theme that's coming out is how much people are enjoying being together again, in a way that we never heard anyone say it, but you could sense the mood that a lot of the Irish camp wasn't happy under the previous regime.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you sensed that as well, Dan? Press conferences and everything?
Yeah, I mean, winning always helps, you know, and the games in March, you know, definitely helped, the Georgia game in particular. But Gary knows far more than again anyone about the environment that Mick creates, but I think it is one that generally a lot of these players seem to enjoy, and I think you know, Mick knows, I think, the characters, and he probably knows how to manage these couple of weeks at the end of the season. I think there's been that sort of balance of sort of work and play to a degree, but you know, at the same time, if we're 2-down in Denmark next Friday, you know,
no fun in that.
You know, the tone around the camp can change, and results can change that. But there is probably a clear sense of, what I find interesting, there's probably a clear sense in Mick's head already about what he wants to do with the team, what way he wants them to play, and a sort of a certainty that we probably haven't had over the past couple of years. That and you know, in some cases the players, I mean, in some cases, in a lot of cases, the players probably at the start of the week mightn't have had a clue maybe what the team might be at the end of it. I think Mick actually has already pretty much revealed his hand to a degree, and Conor Hourihane is a very good example to mention. You know, Conor Hourihane is someone who's basically said he's going to play. You know, Glenn Whelan, Conor Hourihane, and Hendrick is probably going to be his midfield three, and you know, he has one or two decisions to make in other areas, I would have thought. But it'll be very interesting to see, because as much we talk about Ireland have played Denmark 4 times, we haven't played Denmark with this management team, so there is a freshness about it to see, well, actually, can we do better against them? You know, can the approach be better? Can we, like the 2 games in Denmark in particular have been, you know, forgettable, like
nil-all draw
game. I mean, the thing is, you take the result now if it was if it was offered to you. But just to see, I don't know.
Players will play a bit liberated, though, you know, and they will have that sense.
You would think so. You would think so. But like, at the same time,
it's not a team laden with attacking quality.
But like, habits are habits as well. Like this group of team, these players have been together. You know, if Denmark start very well next week, do they suddenly go back into their shell? You know, and that's the challenge for management, and you know, to see what have they done, and you know, you hear positive things about Terry Connor as a coach as well, and like, have they worked through sort of situations and scenarios that they're going to get in this game here? I'd like to think that they would have, you know.
They will have done, and what I'll hopefully give a little bit of an insight is, as a player, you want a bit of peace of mind going onto that pitch, that you know what the opposition's trying to do, you know how you've been coached to counter it, how you can hurt them, as opposed to playing off the cuff. That's when the panic sets in as a player, when there's 11 of you and you're under a bit of stress in the game, you're on the back foot, and there's no soundboard or there's no thing to go back to what you've been doing in the training field. You're just all doing what you think's best at the same time. They will have difficult moments against Denmark, there's no doubt about it, but they'll be prepped in terms of how to cope with it and how they can then influence their play on the opposition. That's something we never had. in the last couple of games against Denmark.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point as well, Neil, that if when Stephen Kenny gets this job, he will be all about, like, you're better than these, you can beat these, and giving these players a bit of confidence that Denmark are beatable, which they are beatable.
Mick McCarthy would be saying that, Johnny.
Yeah, so instead of the old regime, which was basically like, you're no good, let's try to get a 0-0 draw. And that's like when you go back to the last away games we've had, Denmark, go back as far as the Wales game and the Wales game before that, and you just think how negative, the negativity that comes to mind. An Irish team will stand for the national anthem in Copenhagen with full belief they can get something from that game and do it playing relatively good football.
All right. On that note, guys, that is it for our 3 to 5 football chat.
We should mention as well the first 7 home in Epsom Irish trained.
First 7 home.
That's just off the charts. That's where Irish racing is at the moment.
Right.
James McLean carrying them home.
Which one? Kevin Prendergast, 87 years of age this summer, trained the runner-up.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I think there's hope for us yet, Gary, for a long life.
Well,
on that note, Johnny, Dan, Gary, thanks a million for joining me. Cheers. And enjoy the match tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up after the break, after the news as well, we're going to hear a little bit more from Shane Hannon's interview last month with Clive Tilsley on his New Camp 99 memories, and also some highlights from the hurling show this week ahead of this weekend's action, just to keep you up to date as well. In the Joe McDonagh Cup today, Antrim have inflicted another defeat on Offaly. It finished Antrim 3-23, Offaly 4-18, so Offaly in even further danger now of being relegated to the Christy Ring Cup. We'll be back after the news.